Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us for the fifth installment in the Henrico Internet Infrastructure webinar series. Today, we have a distinguished panel of experts that you'll hear from over the next hour. But before we get on with the program, we wanted to throw out a trivia question. So put your answer in the chat. The first five folks that get the trivia question correct will get a fresh copy of the new InterGlobix magazine featuring women in leadership. So please put your answer in the chat. And the question is, Henrico is connected to this number of continents through undersea cables. And you even get a hint. The answer is more than one and less than 8. So how many continents is Henrico connected to through the undersea cables? With that, we'll start our program. And I'll turn it over to the president of InterGlobix and one of our speakers today, Mr. Vinay Nagpal. Vinay, take it away.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and hello, everyone. As Anthony said, I'm the president of InterGlobix. We provide consultancy and advisory services focused on data centers and connectivity solutions. I'm really glad to be here with all of you today and the fifth installment of the Henrico Internet Infrastructure webinar. If we move on to the next slide, the topic of today's session is the past, present, and future of Henrico, which is really exciting. Anthony and I put this series together a couple of years ago during the pandemic. And so far, we have held successfully 4 webinars focused on the data center market, which was oriented towards the brokers. We had the second one on sustainability, followed by connectivity enhancements. And then the fourth one was on digital transformation and the importance of that to the businesses today. As you can see, we've had in the past various different companies from the industry who have participated as guest speakers. And today we are very fortunate in the past, present, and future session to be hearing from our distinguished guests, Henrico's development over the last 25 years and its journey and growth that has taken place. But before we do that, moving on to the next slide, let's take a quick look at some of the macro trends and what's happening around us, especially from the growth of data standpoint. It's very evident that what the pandemic has brought to all of us is being glued to our screens, extremely high utilization of the internet, the digital infrastructure. We are both, in my personal opinion, we are generating a lot of data, we are consuming a lot of data, and by some of the analyst reports, if we read those, every single day we are roughly generating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. To put that in perspective, 1 quintillion byte is 1 million terabytes or 1 billion gigabytes. So we've had this webinar on for like about 4 minutes now. So that's at the rate of 700 terabytes per minute, the amount of data generated. So that's 2,800 terabytes of data already generated from the time I started talking. What that truly means is that that data needs to reside somewhere. The infrastructure has to be robust, and alongside with the generation of data is the consumption of data, which is astronomically increasing as well. If you look at some of the numbers on this chart from last year over the next 3 years, the consumption of data is going to more than double. By 2024, it's estimated to be around 150 zettabytes of data. And I'm projecting from my laptop, which has a 1 terabyte hard drive, which is equivalent to 1 billion zettabytes. So you can imagine how much data is being generated, consumed by us in this day and age. The importance of digital infrastructure shown in the next slide. I mean, we realize that the digital economy is extremely important, the way our lives and our businesses are operating these days, and the infrastructure that's underlying is really the building block or the foundation of that digital economy. And that infrastructure is enabling connectivity of data from point A to point B. And that data traverses from our cell phones to small cells, to macro towers, to backhaul on terrestrial fiber, as represented on this image here, going through data centers, crossing subsea cables, across continents, different countries. And internet exchange points make a very important building block of that infrastructure in terms of interconnecting different networks together and enabling data traversal as well. Moving on to the next slide, as we see that digitalization of everything is truly what's happening around us. Every sector is digitizing due to the efficiencies that can be realized. As an example, the rollout of 5G is going to enable transfer of large amounts of data at a very faster speed. In terms of 4G, as an example, if it takes 10 minutes to download a movie, it's going to take you 5 seconds in 5G. And the dramatic impacts on our lives are likely to be made in the field of medicine, agriculture, manufacturing. As an example, connected devices are going to allow doctors to monitor patients remotely. High definition cameras on drones will allow farmers to see the moisture content of soil. Connected devices in factories are replacing parts before they break. And truly, given all these use cases, after water, gas, electricity, digital infrastructure is the fourth utility. Moving on to the next slide, all of this infrastructure we are talking about, truly enables transfer of data from point A to point B. And global internet hubs are extremely key in that data transfer. And what I mean by global internet hubs is these locations around the world, which is the aggregation point where the exchange of data happens. And these are classified by telegeography. And interestingly enough, 8 out of the top 10 global hubs have direct access to subsea cables. Subsea cables are, again, as I mentioned earlier, are enabling transfer of data between different continents, different countries. But why do subsea cables matter? Well, they matter because, as shown in the next slide, according to FCC, 99.7% of all international data transfer happens on these subsea cables. These cables, by the way, are representing roughly around $10 trillion of transaction every day, which is greater than the combined GDP of Japan, Germany, and Australia. And the subsea cables span around the world through the oceans, and they've been around for over 163 years. And roughly today, there are around 464 cables representing 1.2 million kilometers, which is more than 94 times going around the Earth in terms of Earth's diameter. So these cables form the life and blood of the digital economy. We constantly hear about hyperscalers such as Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and others investing significantly on the subsea cables, and they're landing in more and more in data centers. And these are leading also to a concept of mega regions, as shown in the next slide. Mega regions are a new competitive unit in the global economy and are defined by the movement of goods, people, and capital nearby metropolitan regions. And these 12 mega regions now account for more than 70% of our nation's population and jobs. The Richmond-Hampton Roads mega region spans roughly around 8,000 square miles and is currently home to 3 million people, 1.4 million in the workforce. And Richmond Henrico in specific, which is going to be the focus of our conversation today, constitute a very significant role in terms of the internet infrastructure. And as shown in the next slide, we're going to be hearing more from our expert panelist, of which Greg Force is going to go next, who's going to be talking about the past of Henrico and how it's shaping where Henrico is today. Greg is the president and CEO of Tindall Corporation. Greg will be followed by Clint Hayden, who's the chief revenue officer of QTS Data Centers. Clint is also the founder of IEIC, or the Internet Ecosystem Innovation Committee, and the co-founder of QTS Richmond NAP. Ivo Ivanov is the CEO of DE-CIX International and the COO of DE-CIX, and also a founding member of IEIC. With that, I'm going to be handing it over to Greg to talk about the history of Henrico and tell us more about Tindall. Greg, over to you.
Thank you, Vinay. Yeah, my name is Greg Force, President and CEO of Tindall Corporation. Very honored to be part of this webinar. Let's go to the first slide. I want to give you a little background on Tindall Corporation, our experience in Henrico County. I've worked for Tindall since 1988 when we built our Central Virginia plant. And through the last 33 years, we've done numerous very exciting and interesting projects throughout Virginia, and the Mid-Atlantic, but particularly in Henrico County. We actually built our first data center in the early 90s in Henrico County. So we go back that far in this particular market segment. Tyndall as a corporation is based in Spartanburg, South Carolina. We were founded in 1963. It's family owned and operated, still is. Over the years, overall, with all of our facilities, we've done well over 11,000 projects completed. We have over 658,000 square feet of manufacturing space enclosed under roof. We have more than 1,200 employees, 75 or more of which are graduate engineers, and about 30 of those are licensed professional engineers registered in 22 states. We're very strong financial. We have a 50 million bonding capacity for a single project and a 300 million aggregate bonding capacity. We're proud of the work that we've done and the company we've become through the years. Our employees, the longevity that they have since they've been, how long they've stayed at Tyndall, our tenure here, it's pretty amazing. I think it's quite unusual this day and time, but we try to make it a very positive place for people to work. We provide an abundance of opportunity for growth, and we challenge folks to try to make a difference in whatever they're involved in, that make it matter. But what differentiates us, we believe, as a precast, pre-stressed concrete producer, is our consultative approach to business. We try to get involved very early on in projects, from concept on, and when doing so, we bring, this is what, again, is unique about us, we bring passion and ingenuity to every challenging opportunity, and we'll go through one or two examples. We'll see slides. What we try to do is leverage our engineering capability. We have, I think, more in-house engineering capability than any other such company in the country. And we also have a bent towards innovation. And we get very excited when we get to use that to bring value to our customers. Our geographic footprint, as you can see on this slide, we have facilities in San Antonio, Texas, Moss Point, Mississippi, the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, again, our flagship plant, our corporate office here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and then up in Central Virginia. So we have a wide coverage. We do work primarily where we can ship within 250, maybe 300 miles of each plant, so we overlap. We cover the Mid-Atlantic, we cover the Southeast, we cover the South Central part of the United States. But we've also done work of various type in almost every continental state in the U.S., as well as up into Canada. This is an overhead view of our Virginia plant. This is our largest plant, 175 acres. You can see there's quite a bit of product out in storage ready to be shipped to the job site. What we do is we fabricate these large structural elements or architectural elements and ship them to the project and assemble them like you'd see a steel structure assembled, just that much more robust being out of concrete. All of our plants are PCI certified. In fact, one of them is nuclear QA1 compliant, and one of them is ISO 9001 certified. So our plant quality is evidenced by these rigid certifications. We're very much attuned to making sure we have the highest quality that we bring to the work that we provide. Very recently, or just the start of the year, we announced a new direction for the company. We bifurcated the company into two distinct groups. And the reason for that, our infrastructure group and our building systems group, the reason for this was to bring greater focus and emphasis to what we do well in the market segments we serve, as well as ones that we don't serve yet, but to allow us a reach into these where we can bring all that precast has to offer to bring solutions to those market segments. And we do this in our infrastructure group primarily for work below ground, and our building systems group for work above ground. This slide I'm very proud of. We've left our footprint all over White Oak Technology Park. These named projects are work that we've either provided the total structure out of precast or some significant amount of cladding. In fact, I'm sure there's well over 100,000 square foot of cladding just in these several buildings that are clad up against steel structures. But the by far the largest, and I think the most challenging job that we did was back in the mid-90s, in 96. The QTS data center actually was started as a semiconductor fabrication facility for joint venture between Motorola and Siemens. And I'm going to show you a couple of slides on that. We'll go to the next slide. But before I do, I want to just say that just in White Oak Technology Park alone, we've done work with some very recognizable firms, mission critical work, as you can see up here, Motorola, Siemens, QTS, Meta, Peak 10, Flex Central. We've got to know these folks, and we've got to do work with them and become that much more familiar with what their challenges are to get up and running as quickly as possible. Now, this is only the folks we've worked with here in Henrico. We've all worked in data centers all over the country, other parts of the country, and other developer companies such as Raging Wire, also QTS, Stack, Peak 10, Equinix. We've provided precast to various hyperscalers and end users such as Facebook and Google. Again, this is outside of just what these folks evidence in their presence in White Oak Technology Park. This was an extremely challenging job. I was very much integrally involved in this thing. We were brought on board early on. I say early on. This was as fast track a job as I think I've ever been involved in. We were officially put under contract to provide the structure for a semiconductor fabrication facility, about a 96,000 square foot clean room for a joint venture of Motorola and Siemens. We were brought on board in October of 96. We engaged 3 of our production facilities before the end of 96. We got into the field starting to erect precast mid-January of 97, and we were out before the end of March of 97. In the semiconductor business, I know we're talking about data centers, but there's a lot of similarities. Time to production was extremely critical. And at this point in time, this particular facility had the fastest track record of first shovel of soil out of the ground to first production run. It was 11 and a half months. And at that point in time, I think that was the fastest it had ever been done anywhere in the country. What precast pre-stressed concrete brought to this, our ability to do long spans. This big, huge element that you see in the center of the picture is 12 foot wide, 5 foot deep, and 128 foot long. This member had to span over a clean room where the equipment suspended from it was so sensitive that we had to be able to design this to have less than 1 inch deflection with long-term creep considered and instantaneous live loads applied. So this was a very robust member, but we were able to rise to the occasion, develop this element, this member, and provide it as part of this total structure. There were, it was also provided for a floor in other parts of the building where it had to support, spanning 100 feet, it had to support 150, 200, 250 pound per square foot. That's not unusual in data center construction. So I just point that out as far as what precast pre-stressed concrete can do. Various job site complexities. Obviously, we were working very quickly. We had 2 400-ton ringer cranes strategically placed so that we had to minimize the number of moves. And as I said, we were able to hit this 7 days a week and knocked it out in just over 2 months. And it was very exciting to be part of it, very challenging, but we were very proud of it. In fact, when it came time here several years later to build the next identical facility on that campus, the owner came to us before they even had a construction manager on board and said, when can we get in your production schedule so that we can get you to put this second facility in place for us? So this is an elevated view of the building under as it's been completed. Part of our capability is, or what we brought to this unique project was our in-house engineering, as well as the R&D in-house that we had to develop this unique member to span that roof. But our in-house engineering folk working alongside the owner's engineer and architect. That's what facilitated being able to move this project so quickly. I just want to say thank you, but here want to talk a little bit about our understanding and acknowledgement of the importance of networks access points. We actually worked on Napa, the Capital Region, Napa, the Cap, about 15 years ago. I think the original owner was Terramark. Now it's owned by Equinix. We've done another facility or several facilities for Equinix up in Northern Virginia. I'm proud that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into these projects back in the mid-90s when I was involved heavily in engineering and in our construction, more in the trenches. But I'm very pleased and proud that this robust facility has found another life here that was built in the mid-90s. Now it's been repurposed for the global connectivity solutions that the QTS provides. So with that, I will be quiet and hand it over to Clint Hayden, the co-founder of the QTS Richmond NAP and Chief Revenue Officer of QTS Data Centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I apologize for not being on video. So the first slide I have shows the QTS NAP portfolio, and I was asked to talk about the present, and that's a tough one because everything is moving so fast. I almost don't know what the present is. You know, if I go back 3 years in time, QTS does not have any NAPs deployed. And when I say a NAP, it's a network access point to me that marries both terrestrial fiber and subsea cable along with an ecosystem of various companies that allows traffic to be routed around the world. And the reason for that is we all know enterprise has gone completely digital. If you're not a data company today, you're going to be out of business shortly. Everything is data, even tangible physical items that are sold have to have a digital presence and a digital go-to-market strategy. And on top of that, it has to be global. So if you look at what QTS now has, just 3 years later, we have 4 NAPs, 3 in the US, 1 in Europe in the Netherlands. And those NAPs are varying in size and scope. I'm going to pinpoint QTS Richmond NAP and go to the next slide and tell you what Vint Cerf said about the region. So Vint Cerf is the founder of the internet. He said, and his quote is here on the slide, "The subsea cables that terminate in Richmond have opened an amazing opportunity for Henrico County to become a locus for both domestic and international applications. That gives good reason for the creation of the QTS Richmond NAP, a place where multiple providers and internet services can meet, connect, and reach international cables that link Virginia to other parts of the world and really to the world at large. From this data center and from this ecosystem, a user can send a packet to Spain and back in 1/3 of a millisecond. They can reach 80% of the US in a blink of an eye, which is a millisecond. And that data is secure and protected with the diverse paths and years of infrastructure that's been building as we created the NAP. It's interesting to say, why did we create, how did the subsea cables end up in Henrico County? How'd they end up there? Well, talking about the present and it changing so quickly, if you go back a few years, not that long ago, the main points were New York and Miami, and natural disaster caused a problem. Sandy came in, took down the Northeast for, I think, a week at a time, and the folks putting most of the data on the internet said, we can't have that happen again. Where strategically should we locate cables to reach the globe from the East Coast of the US? And that became Virginia Beach, which then pulling it inshore became Henrico County and the QTS Richmond NAP. So that's how we got to this location. And today, it's the fastest growing NAP and one of the fastest growing regions in the world for internet connectivity. If we go to the next slide, you can see why it's growing so fast, and the level of effort that was put into it. You know, across the top of the slide, it makes a point on the far right that we've been doing this work for over 2 decades. Well, QTS's work goes back to 2008. That's when we bought the facility that Greg referenced from Cumonda. Cumonda, I believe, started building that facility in the early 2000s as a chip manufacturer. And Henrico Economic Development purchased White Oak Technology Park, or started positioning it in 1994. So this is decades upon decades to get to something that now is moving at astronomical speeds. This will probably be the greatest data creation and inventory takedown year that we've ever seen in the history of the internet. It's off to that quick a start. It ended last year going that fast. Global supplies on products, equipment, land, you name it, everything is becoming a very finite resource. That also brings into to point out another reason that we needed to diversify the internet and find a home in Henrico. If you look at Ashburn, a city most of us are very familiar with, there comes a point where there's no land left, there's no water left, there's no power left. You have to import all of that from other regions. In fact, the largest water reservoir in the state of Virginia is in Henrico County. It's not up here in Ashburn feeding the largest concentration of data centers in the world. So from a diversity of infrastructure and natural resources, we had to shift. But then you get to the resources like the people, the workers that are going to actually work on this ecosystem, and the companies and the roads and all of the other resources that go, and a region just can't support what we're doing on the internet today. We partnered with not only Henrico Economic Development to create this ecosystem, but also with the local universities like VCU to train in their courses professionals that are coming into the workforce that could actually run, operate various parts of this ecosystem. You can see from all of these logos, there are a lot of companies that were involved, and they all participate in a very neutral environment. In other words, they're all there to make the internet work. The second thing they're there for is obviously to sell business and find customers. But primarily, this starts as a place the internet needs to switch among other points in the globe and get to its destination. I can tell you that this, and QTS probably being one of the larger, because we have physical assets, the larger that had to spend money, there are billions of dollars invested in this ecosystem. So Anthony did not just come to this, the names on this slide and think that it would be a great idea to create a NAP. It took a long time for him to create the right landing place. It took events to happen with hurricanes and other scenarios, and Ashburn outgrowing its platform for the internet to say, we need to get to another interconnection hub. And these companies, like you'll hear from Ivo, the CEO of DE-CIX, came to support the functioning of the internet and all made an investment in Henrico County and in the QTS Richmond NAP to work together to basically make sure that when we do an online deposit or stream a video, that it all works no matter where we are on any device, you name it, it's going to work. And that's through a lot of effort behind the scenes from the heroes we don't see out in front necessarily in the press. The last slide is a zoom in on the QTS Richmond NAP. And from 5 years ago, having zero of the connectivity on the East Coast, because again, it was concentrated in New York and Miami, there was no connectivity, subsea connectivity in this region. Today, and this is where the present will change very quickly, many more cables are planned for this location that are not represented on this map. But today, 18% and the fastest cables ever produced anywhere in the world land at this site. 18% of the East Coast cables and a larger amount of the total bandwidth, more so than just a third. It's probably upwards of 50% or more because of the size of the cables and the speed. So you will see more QTS Richmond NAPs by the name of another business or whoever might create one for the next interconnect nexus point. But what you're looking at now and what we have in Henrico is the fastest growing interconnection point in the globe. And at QTS, it went from, in 2008, really a facility that we had no customers. We were fitting it out. We turned it into the fourth largest data center on the globe. And it has become, only in the last 18 months, through efforts of the IEIC, Henrico County, great ecosystem partners like DE-CIX, it has become our third fastest growing and highest revenue at our company. So it shows you what happens when data starts to collect and aggregate and transfer amongst each other. That ecosystem just takes off. And so what took 3 decades prior to get to a point, you really do reach the hockey stick curve of what now starts to happen with the growth of data, because the physical infrastructure is largely there and can be scaled up as we go. So that's a quick overview on the NAP, where it is today, and I will now hand it over to Ivo, the CEO of DE-CIX.
Thank you, Clint. Much appreciated, and I'm proud to be part of this exciting discussion already. It's about the future built on great infrastructure. And we listened just to Clint, what kind of results can be achieved if this infrastructure is done properly. Let's talk about the future of digital infrastructure. Next slide, please. Why this future is so exciting? Because the digital infrastructure is the backbone of economic growth. And digital infrastructure will be required to be present everywhere, to be built everywhere for everything and everyone, just for one very simple reason. Digitalization is everywhere. Clint mentioned this, Vinay mentioned this. All the industry segments you see on this slide are just examples for digital transformation at high speed. Happens already and will happen even more in the future. And therefore, we have to build digital infrastructure everywhere. I want to remind you about the map Vinay shared with us at the beginning of the 10 hubs like LA, Miami, London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Hong Kong, Singapore, Paris, not to forget, of course, beautiful city. So what these all hubs, they have been doing for decades, starting in the early 90s, is not enough anymore. We need more and more hubs appearing on the globe. And I will give you one simple reason why this is mandatory, why this is essential for the economic growth. Because of performance. And in our business, we measure performance by milliseconds. Performance means attractive experience on digital services in private but also in the business sector. And on this slide, you can just see a couple of examples of applications. We all know, we all use, like now, using a collaborative work application like Zoom, we all use Teams and web access and Skype and so forth and so on. The gaming sector is booming. We talk not about gaming on a console only. We're talking about real-time, high-def gaming in shared communities, even across continents. These applications, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends of infrastructure, they require the lowest latency possible. Talking about high-def gaming and excellent audio, video, on live broadcasting, on live events, live sport events, require not more than 35 and even lower, not more than 15 milliseconds. If we're talking about virtual desktops in the business area, if we're talking about cloud-based, entirely cloud-based applications down the path to autonomous car and real-time robotics manufacturing management, we're talking about less than 5 milliseconds down to 1 millisecond. That means that digital infrastructure has to get as close as possible where the users are to make this experience possible. In terms of distance, you see, we're talking about the range of a couple of 100 miles down to 50 miles if we talk about real-time robotics. To bring digital application and content as close as possible to the people needs to understand that this infrastructure has to be built as close as possible where these users are. Or as I love to say, latency is the new currency. Now you know why I love this phrase, because every single millisecond counts. It counts for businesses and it counts for the users in their offices and living rooms. We at DE-CIX decided for this reason to develop our business based on 2 strategic pillars. The first one, the geographical densification. Infrastructure needs to be deployed literally everywhere for the given reasons. But there is also the second pillar, the pillar of diversification on services. As I mentioned before, digitalization is everywhere. And this everywhere means all different industry segments need to be served in the future. We're talking about the future. We're talking about cloud-based connectivity. We're talking about applications interconnection, the needs of automotive, e-health, finance, retail, logistics, for the best digital performance possible. These services need to be provided at the same time as close as possible to where their production is, where their usage is, where their customers are. And we have started with this. Let me give you an example on the geography first. North America. DE-CIX has created over the past 6 years only, the largest interconnection ecosystem in North America, entirely data center and carrier neutral. This is very important. Highly distributed in markets like New York, Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, and Richmond. We believe on the East Coast, there is the need for complementary solutions, complementary to places like Miami and New York or Ashburn, Virginia. We believe because of the need of the lowest latency possible, because of the need of the distribution for better performance, these new gateways, these new connectivity hubs, they need to be created. And everything needs to be as much as possible integrated. Therefore, DE-CIX interconnected all these interconnection hubs into one big ecosystem, as local as possible, as distributed as possible, as integrated as possible. And you see what happens already, even without a presence on the West Coast. Within 15 milliseconds, and ladies and gentlemen, an eye blink are 100. We're talking about 15 milliseconds. There is a population of 80% of the US population can be addressed by connectivity. And this added this to the future. What will be the next? We are talking about even closer to the edge, even closer to tier 3, tier 4 markets where the production happens, where the manufacturing happens, where the users are. Talking about the edge, we talk also about 5G. And we at DE-CIX, we have called it the triangle of edge interconnection, consisting of the 5G technology, consisting of course, AI, artificial intelligence, to be able to manage the hundred thousands of streams from the IoTs. So these three elements, 5G technology, artificial intelligence, and IoT management in terms of traffic management, interconnection flows, this will be one element in the future which will drive our business, the element of even closer to the edge. In the S, we plan to build internet exchanges next to mobile cell towers and highway crossroads for the given reasons. In terms of geography, Richmond, New York, the East Coast of the US is the gateway to Europe, and from then on, the gateway to the mid and far east. But that's not the end. We are talking about a real gateway, a gateway also to South America and Latin. And you see on this slide, based on the number of subsea cables, the future of infrastructure will literally experience a new triangle over the Atlantic Ocean, adding a new specific corridor in the mid-Atlantic Ocean and creating an entirely new path for traffic between LATAM and Europe. That's the South Atlantic path. Adding new hubs like the Richmond one in Henrico country, working with partners like QTS and others, will add a further resilience and further distribution for better connectivity for users and enterprises. And talking about subsea cables, talking about layer one, how we call it, infrastructure with terrestrial fiber, I want to touch on one very important element. This ecosystem you see on this map is just the beginning. We will add over time hundreds of further interconnection platforms, and they all will not be able to be served over fiber or subsea cable. They will be served also from the space, and DE-CIX has the DE-CIX program for LEO satellite operators, because we believe this new technology, the low Earth orbit technology, will help further to serve interconnection and connectivity in rural areas, areas where a business case doesn't work for build a fiber on the ground. The backbone will come from space, or I call it a new hope from space. This is another element for the future. Now coming closer to the service pillar. You remember the service pillar related to all of this new type of participants in the ecosystems. So we are not talking about wholesale operators like content delivery networks, content networks, carriers, and ISPs only anymore. We see the entire world of industry, businesses from different segments. Just 4 examples here of automotive, finance, healthcare, and hospitality becoming more and more active. These type of companies, you see a lot of well-known logos here. They get their hands on infrastructure. And this is one further trend for the future. We will see more and more, to start with the Fortune 500 companies, businesses around the globe getting involved directly into infrastructure for 4 main reasons. It is about security, it is about performance, it is about efficiency, and it's about compliancy. These companies, you name it, automotive, finance, healthcare, logistics, hospitality, they all want to increase the controllability on their data journey. Controllability on data journey will enable them to create digital assets for further economic growth and further growth of the value of their businesses. And we as infrastructure operators, we want to make sure that they will receive the services they need to create this as secure as possible, as performable as possible, and as efficient as possible. So this is one of the major trends we will see over the next decade. We are just at the beginning of a new era, a new boom of interconnection demand and interconnection infrastructure demand on our planet. I want to give you one example. What kind of future interconnection services we're looking into based on the simple logic of the connected car. If you think about the connected car as how people call it, the fifth screen, people call it my next digital home, my next office, my living room. I can enjoy entertainment on the windows. I can enjoy different sources of information without leaving the car and spending hours in my car. Probably not the perfect situation for some of us who want to get a nice walk in a park. But working and being very agile, we need to use our cars as well. So talking about the connectivity of the car, there are so many different scenarios for a car automotive company to create their connectivity strategy. And they need to have one because of creating digital assets. So they all want to interconnect with hundreds and thousands of organizations who deliver data into the car and want to receive data into the car. It's $1 trillion business. And to do it in the way as it has been done in the past, using MPLS circuits, upstream only will not do the trick, because this technology is not scalable, is not flexible enough, and has certain security and performance lacks. Do it bilaterally, doesn't scale. Imagine what a company like Ford would do if they need bilaterally to manage thousands of interconnections with all the data buyers and suppliers. They want to get involved in the connected car. This will not work. Therefore, we believe that the future trend is more into the direction of building private virtual ecosystems for interconnection. We call them closed user groups. This is a virtual private environment for banks, automotive companies, even construction companies, but also beyond of this, hospitality service providers, healthcare service providers, to manage efficiently, compliant, and highly performable their connectivity needs. The future, ladies and gentlemen, is about democratizing connectivity and the infrastructure interconnection business. It's about seamless access to interconnection services, using portals in a very easy to be performed way, using a lot of automation, creating software-defined platforms and services in a very agile and flexible way, even to allow companies to adjust their connectivity needs to the specific hour of a day, to the specific day of the week, depending on the demand on the global, regional, and very local market. The future is also about education. And I believe creating awareness through webinars like this one, or through the DE-CIX Global Interconnection Academy, just examples, is the right way to do, to excite professionals in all different industry segments about the need of robust infrastructure everywhere. And having said everywhere, especially in great regions like the Henrico County in Richmond. And I want to thank you all for the great discussion so far, and want to hand over to Anthony Romanello, who is the Executive Director of the Henrico Economic Development Authority. The floor is yours, Anthony.
Thank you. Ivo, Vinay, Greg, Clint, wow. I mean, just what awesome presentations. Hopefully our audience can see just how excited we are about what this means for the region, what this means for internet connectivity. Since you all don't have access to Clint and Vinay and Greg and Ivo every day, we thought we would distill this really exciting message down to a short video, which we're about to play. This is on henrico.com. And please share it as you see fit. We hope that everybody, after hearing today's presentation, is going to be a missionary for just how important this is and what this means for our local and state and national economy. So please play the video.
This is a global journey, but you won't need your passport. In fact, you'll never leave your chair. But we'll go to all corners of the world in fractions of a second, and we'll start in Henrico, Virginia. Have your attention? Good. Because this is big. It's about reach, data speeds, and business opportunity, and what our region's internet infrastructure can do to revolutionize business and supercharge your digital transformation. This is the business world of today. Thanks to the integration with DE-CIX, the world's leading provider of interconnection services, Henrico and its business community is in the same conversation with New York, Chicago, Dallas, and Phoenix as part of the largest interconnection ecosystem in North America. With DE-CIX, in 1/3 of a second, the time of a single blink, your data can go to Spain and back. In 2 milliseconds, 2 normal flashes of a camera send your data to 80% of the US population. For area businesses, this means heightened visibility on an international stage and a premier global data hub right in their backyard. The world gets closer because data can now go farther and faster. We're talking unrestricted data communications with business epicenters and emerging markets worldwide in milliseconds. And it's all made possible by leveraging Henrico's existing subsea cable connections located at the QTS Richmond Network Access Point, NAP. Here, you can gain access to Tindall, which extends to France and offers a record-breaking 250 terabits per second capacity. That's fast enough to transmit the entire digitized Library of Congress 3 times every second. In addition, tap into Maria, Brusa, and SAEX1, which extend to Puerto Rico, Brazil, Spain, and South Africa. And it gets better, because this is the business world of tomorrow. Through integration of the QTS Richmond NAP and the DE-CIX exchange, businesses will have instantaneous access to more than 2,300 network operators and 500 data centers across the globe. And that list is growing. Most impressively, this integration with DE-CIX is data center neutral and carrier neutral, but only in Henrico. We are offering open access to a data autobahn, where you can drive your business towards success. We hope you enjoyed this international expedition. Let's talk more.
And I'll turn it back over to Vinay for a couple of minutes of Q&A.
Thank you so much, Anthony. That was phenomenal. I'd like to start by first of all wishing Clint Hyden a very happy birthday. Ian sends his wishes to you, Clint. I'm trying to find his last name. Ian Horowitz. Happy birthday, Clint.
Thank you, Vinay and Ian.
We have a first question here from Elizabeth Power. What is the biggest risk to the densification of the interconnection? Maybe Ivo, that you want to take a shot at that?
Oh, sorry, say it again. What is the best?
What is the biggest risk to the densification of the interconnection?
The biggest risk, I would say, this is a mitigation of a lot of risks. I will put it in another way. The densification of infrastructure allows company to create a much better redundancy, higher resilience. It allows them to get access to different cloud zones, mitigating the risk of cloud concentration. This is a very, very important topic. We have seen first regulatory authorities asking banks to provide them with their plans for cloud concentration risk mitigation. And, densification of infrastructure, distribution of infrastructure will allow all participants to get redundant physical access to different cloud zones, redundant interconnections with others. So if the one, for whatever reason, is not able to perform, the other will do the trick. And the more of options we have, the more robust our digital infrastructure world will be. So yeah, straightforward, densification is a risk mitigation and not a risk.
Absolutely. That's very well said, Ivo. Anthony, the video was absolutely phenomenal, very effective. I can already see in the chat window, some people want to know where they can access it. It's available on henrico.com on the homepage. Right. Anthony, can you share with us real quick some of the business and economic growth opportunities, the way you see them, that this internet infrastructure is starting to create for the region?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Vinay. And we've talked some about it, and everyone has seen the growth that QTS has, that Clint talked about. You've seen the investment that Meta, formerly Facebook, is making in the region. Obviously, what DE-CIX is doing and all the projects that Greg talked about. We're also seeing the support systems like Nord Mardix and PDI Eaton, who are making additional investments in the area, all as a part of the data center ecosystem. And I think what's even more exciting is what this means for all businesses. As you heard Clint say just a few minutes ago, if you're not in technology, you're not in business. And so that's why we need to get this message out there. We think that's what's happening with digital infrastructure will be to the 21st century what the interstates, what I-64 and I-95 were to Virginia in the 20th century. It's that important.
Absolutely. And I think that infrastructure, with internet infrastructure being the fourth utility, is very evident. That goes a long way. Speaking of infrastructure, Greg, Tyndall has its roots in engineering and innovation. Can you share with us some of the key development projects over the years that Tyndall has been part of, and the key strength in serving various different industries and businesses in Henrico?
Well, that's a pretty good task to try to come up with all the different challenges that we've been able to get involved in and come up with solutions, whether underground or whether above ground. It's a matter of knowing the material that we use and the way that it's reinforced, the way that it can be used most optimally, and fitting what it is that we do well with the need. And again, doing it in the most expeditious manner possible. There's, whether they're high-rise buildings, we just finished a 12-story high-rise in downtown Richmond in record time, or municipal justice facilities, or high-tech facilities, as we've talked about here today. It's a matter of being able to do something of the highest quality in the most expeditious manner possible, so that we can get folks up and running in the earliest possible time. And I did want to mention this, I forgot to when I was talking. Henrico County is excellent to work with in that regard. Their permitting department, their building department, they understand what it takes to get plans in place and contractors moving. They get that. A lot of places where we do work, it's not quite the same. But I do want to say that Henrico County is very much that way.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, Greg, from the internet infrastructure industry side as well. In terms of the public-private partnership, that definitely goes a long way. Speaking of which, Clint, can you share with us, just from your perspective, from a strategic standpoint, the importance of the NAP, the success you've seen, and where do you see this evolving over the next few years?
Sure. Going back to that first question about the danger of aggregation, there's danger with resources and infrastructure, but there's also a cost component that just goes up and makes a region kind of unsuitable to service the internet and still deliver price points to the consumer that we need. I see Henrico and Richmond becoming probably, and again, this takes time, 5 to 10 years, becoming the most important interconnection hub or internet location on the East Coast. It will be more important than New York, more important than Miami. It will take time to do that, but it is certainly on that path.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Clint. I know we had a great presentation. I'd like to thank all the speakers. We have unfortunately ran out of time. I do want to hand it back to Anthony for some closing remarks, but I want to personally thank everyone in the audience as well for joining us today. Anthony, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vinay and Greg and Ivo and the birthday boy, Clint. We appreciate all that you all contribute to what we're trying to do. Also, thanks to Wendy and Courtney for putting together the show today. And thanks to all of our participants. This is recorded. You'll be able to view it on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to access through our website, henrico.com. Also, the winners of our trivia contest, John Barry and Megan Welch, so they will get a copy of their own personal copy of InterGlobix magazine. Thanks to everybody. Have a great afternoon. Stay well and stay safe. Take care.